Mark, thank you so much for agreeing to take part in our Great Minds series. We're absolutely delighted to have you participate. Can you tell us a bit more about the JLT group and perhaps a bit about your global operation?
Well, of course, JLT is the fourth largest insurance broker in the world, trading right across the globe. And as our name implies, the J is the J of Jardine Matheson, one of the largest investment houses in the world, based in Hong Kong, founded on the money that was developed from Victorian trading, and that money then being recycled into a whole variety of different sectors, including our insurance broking and employee benefits operations.
What are some of the key challenges facing the insurance sector at the moment, and how do you envisage the sector responding to these challenges?
Well, the insurance sector globally is very much driven by GDP growth. So as we look across the globe, we can see certain territories where GDP is growing relatively rapidly and the commercial structure in those markets is developing. So if you go to a market such as Brazil or Argentina, which are well-established economies but seeing a burst of growth, the demand for insurance products in those markets is very strong. You then look at Mexico or Colombia or Peru, and you see countries which have a much less developed commercial infrastructure, and yet, because they're growing so rapidly, they also need insurance products, but there isn't the capital market structure within those economies. So in economies such as Colombia and Peru and Mexico, they feed back into London, and we provide insurance capacity in London into those markets, whereas in Brazil, the challenge is to create a local insurance market because that economy is growing so strongly, and to develop the capital markets products that can be traded domestically in Brazil. So very different challenges in countries that when you glance at them look quite similar.
What role does innovation play within your organisation, and how is this promoted among staff?
Well, I think innovation is a constant. It sounds like an oxymoron, but innovation is a constant in almost every sector. You know, and you look at the way in which we use technology today relative to just a decade ago. You know, for example, we have 1 million people who use their iPhones to access their pension records. I mean, it's an astonishing thing. So we give people the ability to model what their pension will be in 10 years or 20 years or 30 years just by using the screen on their iPad. And you compare that with just a few years ago when to communicate with an insurance company would have required a form to be filled out. You know, you might have had to show your passport to somebody, etc., etc. So it's a dramatic change in the way in which we interface with our clients.
In your opinion, what is the role of higher education in terms of providing higher levels of talent for the sector?
Well, I remember when I did my degree education, what I was told by my teachers as I left my school and went to university was that I would learn how to think. And in a sense, the core of education really is how we use our minds, how we resolve problems, having amassed a certain amount of knowledge. And then, of course, as we embark on our career, we accumulate experience, which is the practical application of that knowledge. So the role of education, it seems to me, is to do two things. One, to make sure that the base level of knowledge that somebody needs for their particular métier, their particular profession, is accumulated to a standard where they can make a contribution to their employer. But secondly, that we learn the techniques of communication, problem solving, the analysis, all of those generic skills that are necessary in order to make an individual effective in a highly competitive world.
What role does, say, e-learning and technology play for the industry, and do you think the sector can benefit from these technologies?
Well, I think the fundamental thing that's happened over the 40 years that I've been in employment, it seems an alarming amount of time to have been in employment, but over the 40 years that I've been working, the fundamental thing that has changed is the access to information. And I say information rather than data because, you know, there's a mass fields of data, but we now have the technology to sift through that data and derive information from it, and then have that information to provide us with a more educated basis to make decisions on. So if I use an example from our own industry, we're very preoccupied by lifespan. You know, in insurance, you're often insuring people against the consequences of dying at an inconvenient time. And so a lot of what we do is to try and predict mortality by the characteristics of an individual. So we collect all of the data that we can on an individual, analyze that so it becomes information, and then use that information as the basis for pricing insurance for an individual's life insurance contract. We do that across millions and millions of records, and we're correlating different factors in much the same way that you would correlate factors for a credit score, for a credit card, or a bank account. And that seems to me to be the fundamental change that I've witnessed in terms of the application of technology.
Professional qualifications, in your opinion, how important are they as an entry requirement into the sector?
Yeah, professional education, professional qualification, achievement of a standard is really a hygiene factor. I think when I think about what differentiates somebody who's going to be successful in their career, everyone achieves a certain level of educational standard, and that's the launch point. And individuals differentiate themselves in the way that they apply their qualifications. So professional qualifications are fundamental in order to get to the launch point for a career.
What role does values play within the JLT group, and how is this promoted among staff?
Yeah, well, we have three things that we're preoccupied by: agility, rigor, and collaboration. And those three descriptions of how we want to work really exemplify the type of people that we need. Now, the GE Combine under Jack Welch established a principle, which is that people had to be effective and they had to have behaviors that were consistent with the culture of the organization. And Jack Welch used to surprise people because he would say, I can have highly effective people with the wrong behaviors. And if I have a highly effective person with the wrong behaviors, then I get agitated about that and I give them a chance to improve their behaviors, but if they don't, they leave the organization. So highly effective people leave the organization because of their poor behaviors. If I have somebody who's got the right behaviors, but they're ineffective, I invest in them because I can make them more effective and they've got the foundation of the right behaviors. It's a very fundamental principle. So for us, we want people that put the client first and work in an agile way to resolve the issues that the client has. They do that most effectively when they collaborate with their colleagues, because all of us are better as a team. Success is a team sport, so you need to draw together all of the skills of the team and collaborate in order to deliver. And we need to be rigorous in the way that we do that. Get the thing right first time. Be precise. So those are our three values.
Mark, you've had a very illustrious career till date within the insurance sector. What are the key things that you look for within your top leadership?
Well, I think given that we've got the hygiene factor of professional qualifications and we've got people that have a technical competence, I think the things that distinguish those people that make a real contribution to the organization are really two very simple things. One is a level of energy. I want people that are highly active, that will involve themselves, that will go the extra mile, that will roll their sleeves up and get the job done. And the other is enthusiasm. Somebody who can take that energy and really deliver it so they inspire the team and they get the organization racing along at a pace that otherwise wouldn't be there.
We're coming to the final question, and the final question really is regarding any kind of key advice that you may have for our students and graduates who are really thinking seriously about entering the insurance sector. What would this be? Why is this sector a brilliant sector to work for?
So when you think about your career and how you choose your career, I was thinking about this in preparation. I've been to the office 10,000 times. I mean, that is a huge amount of time. And so think very carefully about what it is, what inspires you, what drives you, what motivates you, because you're going to do this for a long time. So make sure you're doing something that you really get.
Mark, on behalf of everyone at the London School of Business and Finance and Global University Systems, thank you for your time.
Great pleasure.